Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in the pale moonlight of Mackey Arena, following Purdue's 84-72 win over Rutgers. One that I'll be damned, because I didn't think this would be a high-scoring game. It was, and now I'm going to talk to you about it for the next 10 to 12 minutes in our wrap video, brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel, home of the Boiler Up Bar, where my intern Alan Karpick and I will be appearing on March 3rd for our Thursday Night Live show. You can feel free to show up there, get Alan's autograph, maybe heckle us, or you can stay home and watch online. Either way, I'm good. It's up to you. But just wanted to plug that March 3rd, 7 p.m. at the Boiler Up Bar over by the Union. Purdue 84, Rutgers 72. Again, I didn't think this would be the sort of high-scoring game you just saw, because that's not the nature of playing Rutgers. If you look at this game, if you look at Rutgers' winning streak, it's a 4-game winning streak leading into this game, which, by the way, Purdue owes them a huge thank you for, because Rutgers did Purdue a lot of favors here the last 4 games in terms of the Big Ten race. If you look at the progression of things, you can take the AP Top 25 right now and count the Big Ten teams backwards, and that was exactly their winning streak to this point, leading up to number 5 Purdue. So there was kind of like a weird kind of progression thing going there, but it was pretty evident right away that that probably wasn't going to continue on here in Mackey Arena, as Purdue snapped a 4-game winning streak to my state university. I thought Purdue came out with great energy. I thought my fears personally that I editorially overplayed the whole day off story after Northwestern, because it seems so silly to be talking about that, but it also seems so silly that any team would be in that position where you don't have a day off for more than 3 weeks, you play 8 games in 21 days, whatever it was. The story did seem a little bit silly, but clearly it mattered because Purdue had a lot of energy in this game. The crowd had a lot to do with that, but I think Purdue just had more hop in its step, had its legs back under it. This was very different from Maryland the last time you saw Purdue play here. Northwestern, they were fine, so I shouldn't really lump that in here. But I thought Purdue had a lot of energy. I thought, they got off to a great offensive start, which sometimes correlates to their energy, so that's not always ideal. So I don't know if it was organic energy or if it was offensive energy, one way or another, I don't know. But for Purdue to put 84 points on Rutgers, when Rutgers had been allowing an average of 63 over its 4 wins over ranked Big Ten teams leading into this one, that was quite a feat for Purdue. And I think the player who needed the day off, and we adhere to AP style, Associated Press style, on our website. That means we refer to how the AP does things in terms of how to handle things stylistically, what to capitalize, where to put the occasional comma, what's considered a trademark, all sorts of nerdy journalism things. We look to them for guidance. And, when something becomes like a singular event to the point where it earns a proper name, like an occasion, a holiday, something like that, you capitalize it. And I'm thinking about capitalizing the day off, because it seems like such a seminal moment here in Purdue's season. And now Purdue gets a week off, so we'll see what they're able to do with that. But, offensively, to put 84 points on Rutgers is really something, because they don't give up points like this. As Purdue knows well, because they obviously lost a rock fight in Piscataway back in December and had lost 4 games in a row to Rutgers prior to this game. But I do think offensively Purdue has 2 really head and shoulders personnel advantages over every team they play, and that's part of the reason why they've been one of the best offensive teams in the country all season long, if not the best offensive team in the country all season long. One of them obviously is Jaden Ivey, who is just a supreme talent, an elite talent, a really high-level player. And the other being the incomparable, I guess I can say the incomparable because how many other people have this, the incomparable duo. It sounds like I'm introducing some sort of musical act in a bar. The incomparable duo of Ross-Ade and Travion Williams, both of whom were outstanding tonight. Jaden Ivey, if there was one singular difference in this game, that means one difference above all others, one thing that made the absolute difference in this game. If you had to pick only one, thus it would be singular. That was Jaden Ivey's ability to break Rutgers down off the dribble. This is a really difficult team to score against. Their whole body of work this season, and lately especially, has proven that. The very identity of their program backs that up. For Jaden Ivey just to be able to get to basically get to the rim when he wanted, get to his spots at will, get to the foul line almost as if he was pushing a button. But also break Rutgers' defense down, hit shooters in the first half. Some of those assists really got Purdue off to a great start in this game. His ability to attack off the dribble and break Rutgers down, biggest difference in this game. Obviously, when you get to the foul line 18 times and you make 15 of them, that's a pretty good reflection of how effective you were off the dribble. But he was the singular difference in this game. But the other, head and shoulders, pun intended, advantage Purdue has is Ade and Williams, both of whom were brilliant. They almost took turns dominating this game. Travion Williams in the first half, Zach Ade in the second half. You add it all together at the end of the day. If you make those one person, you basically had Nikola Jokic, Tim Duncan, whatever big guy you can pick in the history of basketball. You had that guy today. Because what would they go for 26 and 11, 7 assists. Zach Ade had no turnovers. All right, I'm reading the box scoring. I have to stop doing this. Anyway, I thought both those guys were really good. I think this was a great example of Zach Eady's completeness as a player these days, because as productive as he was throughout the game, I thought his biggest stretch was that stretch where Jaden Ivey misses a free throw. Zach Ade rebounds it off the offensive glass. Eric Hunter ends up hitting a three off that possession. And then the next time down, Eady's got the ball in his hands at the end of the shot clock. Not sure what he had time to do with it. Ends up hitting Mason Gillis under the basket on a really nice assist at the end of the shot clock. Those were two possessions that Rutgers could have gotten out of with minimal damage, that Zach Ade made a play both times that you don't necessarily expect the 7'4" guy to make. Add to that, to start the second half, it's the 7'4", 300-pound guy who's diving on a loose ball to save a possession for Purdue. That was the story of Zach Eady's game. It wasn't the 5 of 6 shooting for the 15 points. It wasn't the 7 rebounds. It wasn't the 2 blocks. It wasn't the no turnovers. It was all the stuff that just was a good floor game from Zach Ade, on top of all the actual normal productivity that he gives you most nights. Both of those elements for Purdue, the Jaden Ivey factor and the center factor. What's that dance? The robot thing? I think I was just doing that. Both of those elements for Purdue were dominant against a team, again, and stop me if you've heard me say this already 8 times in this video, Rutgers is really hard to score against. But this looked like this was Purdue's offensive balance kind of in all its glory here, because everything that's been great for Purdue all season was great tonight. Both Ivey, the centers, but also Purdue made shots early. Purdue had been trending to where they weren't making a lot of threes early, and that was kind of getting them off on kind of ominous starts that they had to play through. It was good that Purdue has been able to play through some of those things, but you'd kind of rather not. I thought Purdue, they struggled against the dribble in the first half a little bit. Cliff Amori, I'm sorry, I really should know how to pronounce his name. I've watched him play on TV 100 times this year. He got too much at the rim, but I think Rutgers deserves a lot of credit for using the gravitational pull on Purdue's part to Geo Baker and Ron Harper against it, breaking Purdue down off the dribble, making the right passes. Paul Mulcahy is a player. I'm telling you, that dude has become a really good player. He made great decisions for Rutgers. He was a big part of some of the offensive success I think Rutgers had against Purdue's defense, focused on obviously those 2 guards who Purdue has kind of a checkered history with in Ron Harper and Geo Baker. I thought Purdue did a good job on both those guys. Harper looked healthy to me. He made his first 2 threes, I think. I didn't see him really trying to back anybody down in the post like he did in the first game. Maybe that was a credit to Purdue. Maybe he was tentative. I don't know. But I thought Purdue did a good job on Geo Baker, who Purdue fans will probably be happy to never see again, assuming these two teams don't meet in the Big Ten tournament. I've always said about Geo Baker, he's a guy who can shoot you out of a game just as quickly as he can shoot you into a game. He's a streaky guy who has always kind of had some moments against Purdue. He dominated late in the game the last time Rutgers played here. He made a big shot in Piscataway whenever that game was. I can't remember. They've all run together for me. Purdue will be glad to see the last of him, I think, if this is the last they see of him. But I thought they did a good job on him. I thought the guards did a good job staying in his space. The bigs did a relatively good job coming up and taking away the shot. I think he was 5 of 13 for the game. He made a couple of jumpers late in the game when Rutgers was scrambling from down double digits. And I think he kind of padded his numbers then, so the numbers might not even be reflective of what he actually did in this game. So credit to Purdue, who, never mind the fact that Rutgers shot, 51% for the game and, scored 72 points. That's fine. I don't think those numbers are ideal, but I think the bigger picture to that is the fact that Purdue had guards specifically, they had to stop in this game that I thought they did a pretty good job on. That's been the issue for Purdue, is when there's been a really good backcourt scorer, they have sometimes struggled with those guys. So for Purdue to do a pretty good job on two of them tonight, I think was a pretty good step in the right direction. Purdue, the last 3 games from a defensive perspective, has been pretty solid. Now, these weren't, Maryland's not very good, Northwestern's not very good, but they did a good job on Boo Buie. So that's what I'm saying is when there's a high-scoring guard, sometimes that's been a tough thing for Purdue. They did a good job again tonight. I think Purdue's trending okay defensively. We'll see where they are after the week off here. Michigan State and Wisconsin, obviously that back-to-back swing is going to determine whether or not Purdue's a Big Ten champion or not. But you just saw what one day off could do for Purdue. Now Purdue basically has a week off before going to Michigan State this weekend. It would be really good for Purdue if they could, I don't know what Matt Painter's plans are, but if you could dedicate like that first day of practice just to like your stuff, just Purdue, and then start getting into Michigan State, that kind of thing, because I think that could be really beneficial for Purdue in terms of fine-tuning some things from a defensive perspective, all of that stuff. But if this is the impact one day off had for Purdue, think of what they can get done with a full week of practice here. I'm not necessarily saying that, all of a sudden because Purdue gets its week off now, it's bound to take off, but it could, for all we know. So, for Purdue to get through this stretch relatively unscathed, what were they, like 8-1, 9-1 since this gauntlet began? They're in a good spot. I think they're in a good spot to share this Big Ten title, at least. I think that game at Wisconsin is obviously could end up being one that you have to win. Keep in mind, Wisconsin still has to go to Rutgers. So Rutgers has done Purdue a lot of favors, and now Purdue needs to be the biggest fan of Rutgers on the face of the earth. I'm trying to think of somebody who would be an even bigger Rutgers fan than I can think of. James Gandolfini is no longer with us, unfortunately. Rest in peace. Trying to think of a prominent Rutgers fan. I don't think I have one right now. I should know that. I'm from there. I got nothing for you. But anyway, Purdue should be Rutgers' biggest fan right now. So that's what I got. I've lost control of this video. I did about 8 minutes ago. So I'm going to wrap this up. Unlike Jalen Green in the dunk contest last night. Thanks, everybody. From Purdue's 84-72 win over Rutgers, this is Brian Neubert from goldenblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials. However it is you process our materials. Thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel and the Boiler Up Bar, where my intern Alan Karpick and I will be appearing March 3rd for our Thursday Night Live show. Feel free to come on out there at 7 p.m., whatever. And here's hoping next time Rutgers remembers to bring me the dozen bagels that I asked them to bring. Thanks, everybody.